But as I sat there, and Becky is my witness and is on videotape, the first 2, 3 lines of this woman who did get chosen was exactly the same verbiage of my speech.
Wow.
Wow,
It was-
that's interesting.
It was,
That's very interesting.
and so that was like confirmation, like,
Yeah.
it was like the universe chuckling, going, "Good job, you wrote a good speech, Joe."
Wow.
She did too. I just used the same lines in both. you know what I mean? And so anyway, without further ado, I'm just gonna deliver the speech as if I were giving it to the class, so I don't have to change a lot of pronouns or whatever. And leaving you with, this was healing for me, and I learned that I have a strength and an ability to actually do a speech that I never knew I would have had if somebody else didn't encourage me along the way. All right. So, if you told me 3.5 years ago that I would be preparing a speech for potentially delivering a commencement speech for North Shore Community College's graduating class of 2017, while simultaneously completing my associate's degree with honors, it just might have temporarily suspended my darkest depression at the time and allowed me 5 minutes of long-awaited, uncontrolled laughter. And shortly after that display, I probably would have repositioned myself onto the comfort of my couch and continued in my misery. You see, for many years I lived with the knowledge that my future contained the complete, inevitable loss of my vision due to a deteriorating eye disease known as retinitis pigmentosa. And this disease is best described as entering into a long, dark tunnel, and way up ahead in the distance is just a pinhole of vision that is left for you to help navigate your environment. And this eye disease is a progressive eye disease, so just as one would acclimate to the impending blindness, more vision is lost. The cycle continues until there's no vision left at all. So it's an amazement that I stand before you today with severe vision impairment to tell you how I now see life more clearly than ever before. It may be true that a picture is worth 1,000 words, but when one is visually impaired, just a few meaningful words can be priceless. And I found this to be true as I re-entered college and was introduced to a lot of writings of a great number of great thinkers and authors. And these authors often made use of mythologies, allegories, and metaphors in order to help the reader better see a deeper, more insightful meaning than what was actually being said. So in many ways, I began to start to see my world in a whole new light. And William Shakespeare used metaphor when he wrote, "The whole world is a stage, and all the men and women merely players." Well, if William Shakespeare were alive today, he would have probably used a more contemporary description, and he might have wrote something like, "We are all playing the leading role in the action movie of our lives." So envision with me for a moment that we are all actually sitting in a state-of-the-art cinema. And in this theater, we are surrounded by over 7 billion cushy reclining chairs. And on the screen up in front of us, the opening credits start listing everyone present in the theater as playing the leading role of actors and actresses in the movie. Now, we would have seen trailers of moviegoers who have gone before us. And some of these trailers would probably include scenes like living a happy childhood life, moving on to graduating college, getting married and landing the dream job, and ultimately buying a home and living happily ever after. Well, We all are eagerly sitting in our movie theater seats, watching the screen, waiting for our own happily ever after ending. Well, several years ago, while I was sitting in my proverbial theater, I was not liking the film of my life at all. And in fact, it was a B-grade flick at best. And the main actor was just an average Joe who was nice enough, who was nice enough, but he just continually got his butt handed to him by the villain in the film. And it seemed like for every advance he made, his situation became worse than before. So I sat eagerly waiting for some secret power or some hidden weapon to appear to help him annihilate his nemesis. But there were no shooting sticky webs, there was no projecting lightning bolts, there weren't even flying powers. There was nothing. But somehow, I knew that the movie had the potential to be great despite its severely limited budget. But I had definitely seen enough of the movie to know where it was heading. And everything in my body rationalized getting up and walking out on this movie. I thought to myself, it has to be better than sitting through such a torturous plot. Can't I just leave? And besides, I never asked to be a movie star in the first place. But before long, I was depleted of all hope. And soon I found myself standing with my hand on the exit door. And just before I motioned the weight of my body forward to propel myself through the opening, I heard the voice of my character say, "We're not going down like this." And it was like the soundtrack of my life thundered and exploded with excitement. And so instead of exiting the theater, I decided to run back to my seat, and I glued my eyes to the screen, and I realized with renewed hope that my character was not done at all. And in fact, the movie was just getting started. After saying yes to life, my eyes were open to the truth that we all face storms and dark nights of our soul in the pursuit of personal identity and meaning in life. And there's no denying that these storms have the ability to rip us to the core in the wake of their destruction. But one thing seems to remain after these fiery trials, and that is something that can never be destroyed. And it is simply a small glimpse into one's truest essence. In this world where everyone is trying to become somebody, it's funny how life has a way of reminding us that we already are somebody, and that somebody is precious. My personal dark night of the soul was not quick. It actually took me almost 3 years to gain the courage to confront the fears and anxieties present in my life at the time. Unable to see any ultimate destination out of my situation, I opted to start traveling on the path that held the most promise of getting me out of the dark woods that I found myself in. And that path led back to the faculty, staff, and students at North Shore Community College. Now, finding my way back to school with just a stick and a backpack was a lot like entering an icy, turbulent ocean on the darkest, stormiest night that I had ever known. And I had realized if I were to retreat from the place where I found myself standing, I knew it would mean only heading back deeper into the dark woods that I was slowly coming out of. And somewhere on the opposite side of the shore, I saw the promise of a faint light on the horizon. And I realized if any hope exists, it was definitely on the other side. So I started my journey by entering the ocean, taking the plunge, and enrolling at North Shore Community College. Once I found myself in the water, I took comfort knowing that I was surrounded by a great number of people, all with their own stories and their own hardships, attempting the same crossing. So I began to swim with all my might. This is me swimming. My arms are pumping. But
Kick, boy, kick.
But in one hand, I was holding on to everything I knew about my old identity, afraid to let it go. And so soon it became obvious that holding on to these old beliefs and preconceptions of my life only served as an anchor to weigh me down, making the crossing almost impossible. And others, seeing my peril, shouted for me to release my baggage and allow the current to carry me to the other side. So, finally, frustrated and exhausted and filled with grief, I finally relinquished my identity into the depths. And it was like almost immediately I felt relief. And it was like my body rose to the surface. And before long, I could feel the current carrying me across to my destination. It took several years before I finally hit land, but I made it. And I stand here before you as someone who has successfully completed an important long leg of their journey of life. And I am extremely grateful to North Shore Community College and all of us who have made this journey together. We all made it. But our journeys are not over, and our movies are still playing, and we all still have leading roles. So as we part ways from North Shore Community College and we venture out into more unknown, I wish us all the best. And more than that, I look forward to seeing all of us on the red carpet. Thank you.